The X-Men kicked off the events of Avengers Doomsday more than a decade ago, and the events of Days of Future Past, Logan, and Deadpool and Wolverine have all played a hand in causing the very incursions that we will see happening to the X-Men in Doomsday. Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn, and the Fox X-Men universe is coming back with a vengeance in Avengers Doomsday. Now, there are some recent rumors and reports that I will issue a spoiler warning for in case you want to know nothing about this movie going in, but these recent rumors and reports, they are suggesting that the X-Men universe will be a utopic mutant and human society, a universe that has finally achieved the peace and safety for mutants that both Magneto and Professor Xavier have always wanted, but at what cost? Well, the Spider-Verse films and the What If series have shown us exactly what happens when you try to change what's supposed to happen, and it never ends well. And that gives us just a taste of what heinous things the X-Men have likely had to do to keep this utopia that shouldn't exist alive. And there is a recent claim from leaker My Time to Shine Hello that states the following: the X-Men in Avengers Doomsday have survived countless incursions, each one nearly wiping out their universe. They're exhausted, broken, and they have sacrificed everything. Every incursion forces them to send their members to another Earth to battle its defenders and erase that universe from existence before it destroys their own. Okay, I have thoughts on these quotes from My Time to Shine Hello. First off, incursions. This is what the lead up to the 2015 Secret Wars was all about, right? Incursions happening nonstop, and worlds being faced with the tough decision of how to handle those incursions. And remember, incursions, that's when two worlds are colliding.
Destroying one or both entirely.
But before we get into all of that, we need to explain why the incursions are happening to the Fox X-Men universe specifically. Essentially, they f***ed around and found out.
That was a long time ago.
Yes, we're aware of your abuse of your timeline. You were so abusive of it.
In X-Men Days of Future Past, we see a universe where mutants are nearing extinction, and many mutants plus the humans who dared to help them are all imprisoned. Now, the X-Men, much like the Avengers in Endgame, they turn to time travel for a second chance. They not only want to stop this mutant slaughter, but they want to undo it.
And end this war before it ever begins.
So we see Wolverine sent back in time, not physically, but his future consciousness sent into his younger body in the past. And this is very similar to dreamwalking, like we've seen in Multiverse of Madness, when Wanda or Doctor Strange transfer their consciousness in one universe into a body of their variant self from another universe. Only with the X-Men, they're not necessarily traveling to different universes, they're traveling through time. Now, Ryan actually has a great video talking about this up on the channel that you guys should totally check out in case you haven't already. So anyway, they send Wolverine back in time, and he's to bring Magneto and Xavier together at a time when they couldn't have been further apart, and they are going to try and stop Mystique from ever killing Trask, Trask being the creator of the Sentinel program, who would go on to oversee the mutant genocide.
Everything that happens now is in your hands.
So, Wolverine goes back in time and successfully changes the future, creating a timeline where Mystique didn't break bad and mutant kind was saved. We even see Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, and others resurrected.
I think the history I know is a little different.
Welcome back.
But this new happy future, it didn't last long. Just a few years later, mutants once again experienced an extinction level event, an infiltration of the food and water supply that's actually been occurring for 25 years.
Chucking their cloned up super corn. You know it tastes like too.
Why do people eat it?
They don't. They drink it. Corn syrup.
This has resulted in the mutant X gene being suppressed and no new mutants being born, like I said, for the last 25 years. We also learn that Xavier is having seizures, and one of his seizures resulted in the death of all of the X-Men but Logan. Now, that 25-year bit is important to keep in mind. That apocalyptic future from Days of Future Past that we saw the X-Men trying to undo, it had been in the works for like 50 years before fully taking effect. And while this new future they created has done away with that apocalyptic future, another one almost immediately took hold and began to grow. This shows us that all the X-Men really did when they stopped one apocalyptic future was kick the can slightly down the road and create another one. The mutant apocalypse, it still happens, suggesting that the extinction of mutants is a Nexus event, or a canon event. Events in time that are immovable and unchangeable. And what if we saw Doctor Strange attempt to stop Christine Palmer from dying, and in doing so, he ends up destroying his entire universe because that event is a key pillar of existence. The same is true in the Spider-Verse films, when we learn that the death of Uncle Ben, Uncle Aaron, or the police captain, they all must die. And if that death is prevented, then the entire universe crumbles. And hey, speaking of mutant utopias, in X-Men 97, we see essentially the canon event, the Nexus event of Genosha being destroyed. Genosha being a utopic mutant island. We see Cable travel back in time many times trying to stop this event from happening, but no matter how hard he tries, it still happens. And it would appear that for the Fox X-Men universe, mutants, they're just not supposed to survive. Their extinction is a canon event that must happen. And the X-Men and Wolverine's refusal to let that happen is what caused the death of their universe that we are seeing take place in Deadpool and Wolverine. Let me explain.
Oh no, person, big news. The bald eagles is all dead. They were hunted to extinction by someone called the Left.
No, Doug, that's fake news. You can't just trust anything that comes into your news feed.
But then, how will I know the good news from the bad?
Well, that's the thing, buddy. Mainstream media, they have a profit bias, and most of the news you see on social media is tailored to make you angry, so that you'll engage and see more ads. Every time you look at the news, some corporation could be trying to control you. And that's why, if you want to cut through the bias and hear the real news, I recommend Ground News. They're the sponsor of this video. Ground News is an app and website that gathers related articles from across the world into one place, but they give you context on the source's political leanings, its reliability, and its ownership. For instance, here's a story about the White House starting a Trump RX website that's supposed to help people buy drugs straight from manufacturers. Left-leaning sites are focusing on how the site is named after him, while most right-leaning headlines don't mention that at all. Now, by using Ground News, I can see how many sources reported on this story, how many of them lean left or right, and more importantly, who owns those sources. That way, I know who has an angle in telling me this story a certain way. They even have a blind spot section that shows you the news stories that each side is ignoring. Ground News is an incredible resource, and I have been looking for a service like Ground News for years. So I highly encourage you to check them out, and if you go to ground.news/SC or scan this QR code, you will get 40% off their Vantage plan, which includes unlimited access to every feature. Your subscription will not only help this channel, but you'll also be supporting an independent platform working to make the media landscape more transparent. Now, back to what I was saying. So, in Deadpool and Wolverine, we learn that the Fox X-Men universe, Universe 10005, is dying.
You will not be returning to your home because there will be no home to return to.
Come again? This time in my ears?
Now, Paradox claims that it was the death of their anchor being, Logan, and that it was his big sacrifice that caused the death of this universe. But I think it actually goes deeper than that. Logan's continued refusal to let mutant kind die, and his successful mission at saving his daughter and the other child mutants by getting them over the border to Canada and killing Dr. Rice being yet another mad scientist who sought to destroy mutants, this once again undid the Nexus event of complete mutant extinction that is supposed to happen. Logan threw a wrench into the natural flow and stopped this extinction from completing. And that action that, yes, led to Logan's death, it also led to the survival of Laura and mutant kind. And that's why we saw Laura in the void. She is not supposed to exist. She wasn't supposed to survive and grow up. So anyway, when a Nexus event like that is successfully blocked, the multiverse responds, and the universe simply starts to rot and die. So then we have Deadpool, who is also looking to undo the seemingly inevitable, and he finds him a new Wolverine, brings that Wolverine into Universe 10005, and their joint sacrifice, to the words of Madonna, this once again restores the Fox X-Men timeline. For a third time, mutant kind and their dying universe has been saved. Now, the X-Men's first time breaking the canon event that was mutant extinction should have resulted in their universe crumbling, but Deadpool and Wolverine were able to save it. But the question then becomes, for how long? How long before Lady Death comes knocking again? Or how long before their universe starts colliding with others? You see, canon events are canon events because they keep the natural order of things. When the natural flow is broken, the universe dies, partially to spare other realities from that universe's recklessness and unsanctioned expansion. But with the X-Men universe now alive and well, growing into uncharted territory where it was never supposed to be, incursions, the collision of universes, are sure to follow. Plus, it doesn't help that Monica Rambeau, a being from another universe, is chilling in their universe, almost certainly causing an incursion between those two realities. So anyway, I think that that's the why. I think that's the reason the Fox X-Men universe is being plagued with all of these incursions, such as the rumored one that opens Doomsday, where we'll see the X-Men destroy Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man universe. And you know, this is going to be some heavy shit for the X-Men to handle because they're the good guys. They'll take no pleasure in committing mass genocide against entire realities. In fact, I think that the reason Cyclops is dropping to his knees and screaming in that trailer for Doomsday is because he is likely in the midst of helping destroy a reality. And I think that when we hear Magneto give this speech about how death comes for us all and that it doesn't matter how you die but who you are when you close your eyes, this could be Magneto, of all people, trying to convince Charles and the X-Men that what they're doing is wrong, and that they need to join the Avengers and the Fantastic Four to find another way out, even if it means that they will likely fail. So really quick, let's explain the dilemma that the X-Men have been faced with. An incursion is when two realities are colliding, right? And both are destined to be destroyed from that said collision. The only way out is for one of the universes to be destroyed before the collision happens so that the other universe can be spared. They have no universe to collide with. But this presents a trolley problem. For example, if a train is headed down a track about to hit 3 people, but you can pull a lever to make it change tracks and only hit 1 person, is that the right choice? The logical choice? The moral choice? I mean, it is killing fewer people, but it's still you putting your hand on the lever and directing a train to kill a guy who would have otherwise lived. Killing 1 person instead of 3 is logical, but is it moral? And on the flip side, would it be moral not to pull the lever and save the most number of people? This is a philosophical argument that has been had for centuries, especially when it comes to the ethics of war. Now, the X-Men, they were faced with a choice: allow the incursions to happen and for their universe and the other universe that they're colliding with to both die. Or option B, destroy that other universe so that only half the amount of people will die. The X-Men, by destroying that other universe, they are saving trillions, but they're also killing trillions to do so. But those trillions would have died anyway had they just sat there and let it happen, so it's complicated. And sidebar that I think's likely going to come into play, arguably the moral thing, and maybe even the more logical thing, might be to let your universe and the one you're colliding with both just die, because it's becoming clear that the Fox X-Men universe, it is just going to keep colliding with other worlds the longer it lives. Thus, they are killing trillions of more people than otherwise would have died had they just let their world and the other one go. And I think that argument may be used in the film as a reason to stop. We'll be presented with the situation where, oh, if we had just let that first incursion happen, 2 universes would have died. But now, since we've been destroying every universe that collides with us, we've killed 7, 10, 50 universes, and more trillions of people have died because of it. So anyway, you can see how even a good-hearted hero would come to the conclusion that, oh, we have to destroy the other reality. And also there's, you know, the survival part of it. X-Men stories are all like heavily entrenched in evolution, right? I mean, mutation is an evolution, and that's all about survival. But another key theme of the X-Men has been evolving beyond just those survival instincts, and mutants having more humanity than even most humans. And you can see how this would begin to weigh very heavily on these heroes who have the blood of trillions now on their hands. Especially a guy like Magneto, who has lived through genocide and fought for his entire life to not allow a mutant genocide to happen. He has spent his entire life trying to achieve this very utopia that he now finds himself living in, and he'll be damned if he's going to let it be destroyed. But he also lives with the guilt of this utopia being built on blood. And you know, I really think that it is going to be Magneto who has to convince the other X-Men and even Charles that it's time to stop. Because the more universes they kill, the less they are going to recognize themselves in the mirror, and the more they are going to hate themselves when their time does finally come and they close their eyes for that final time. Like Magneto said, death comes for us all. How you die doesn't matter. What matters is who you are when you close your eyes. And oh, that line just gives me chills every time. So yeah, I think Magneto, well, first of all, he's going to be one of the major players in destroying other realities. After all, Ian McKellen said that he destroyed New Jersey.
Though I did destroy New Jersey the other day.
But I also think when the Avengers and the Fantastic Four arrive in their universe, determined to find an alternative to simply just destroying entire realities to save their own, and perhaps if they arrive arrive with a plan that's a, you know, a 1 in a million shot, but still a shot to save the multiverse without the bloodshed, I think Magneto, who knows he has built his utopia on blood, I think he will ironically be the first one to agree to help the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. And unbeknownst to Xavier and the others, Magneto, you know, he is the one carrying the most guilt, I would think. Being a survivor who has been at the mercy of men, just following orders and doing what had to be done for the greater good. And this could ultimately be what pits the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men all against Doctor Doom, who, like the X-Men previously had, will come to a similar conclusion that some universes are just going to have to die. And that is what I've been calling for this movie to be for more than a year now. Yes, that there will be punching and blasting and explosions, but there will also be debate that makes the audience uncomfortable at how unsure they are about who to trust and what they would do in this situation. And that is what is going to make for an awesome movie, I hope. But hey, those are just my thoughts and theories. I would love to hear yours down in the comments below. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time we upload a new video, and feel free to check out my personal channel, link in the description below. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.